Today, the New Mexico legislature opened its new session with the new House Speaker whose home was riddled with bullets last month. This may be the first time that election denialism has escalated to violence in the state of New Mexico. But like so many other places all over the United States, election denialism has caused plenty of other problems in the state over the last couple of years. Republican commissioners in one New Mexico county spent weeks refusing to certify the results of an election last year over fake election fraud claims. New Mexico's Secretary of State finally went to court and forced them to certify. The Secretary of State herself had to go into hiding for several weeks the previous year because of online threats. And as New Mexico's top elections official, she has a pivotal role as her state heads towards 2024. And that's all because election denialism and its violent repercussions do not seem to be going anywhere. Joining us now is New Mexico Secretary of State Maggie Toulouse Oliver. Madam Secretary, thanks so much for being with us tonight. I just want to first get your reaction to the George Pena news, Solomon Pena news, and just to understand what it's been like for Democratic lawmakers in the state of New Mexico and how you're feeling right now tonight.
Well, thank you, Alex, for having me. I'm really grateful to be here to talk about this topic. And I will tell you tonight, I am feeling, and I know my colleagues, especially my colleagues who experienced actual bullets through their houses, are feeling extremely relieved at the quick and decisive action of our local law enforcement officials, the Albuquerque Police Department, state police here in New Mexico. But for me, as somebody who has been on the front lines of dealing with threats and now we're seeing actual acts of violence against elected officials here in the state, particularly as a result of election denialism and the lies and the mis and disinformation that have really pervaded a certain sect of our population over the last couple of years. I am deeply concerned because really we can see a through line now from the rhetoric that was leading up to the 2020 election all the way through December, late in the year of 2022. And we're not just talking about violence now, we're seeing it actually happen.
You know, I think a lot of people think because there wasn't a January 6th style insurrection following the midterm elections, that somehow we've gotten to a better place. But I wonder what the view on that is from the state level. Can you talk a little bit about how you see the threat to democracy as it plays out in the state of New Mexico?
Sure. Well, I'll tell you, my colleagues and I in the election world, and really this is not just Democrats. It is people of both parties, independents who work in elections for a living. We were all saying, you know, wow, this election, it's been a lot calmer, a lot less chaotic, a lot less stressful and threatening than the 2020 election was. But we all sort of are waiting for the other shoe to drop, so to speak. We know that the pervasive sentiments that have been created by the rhetoric of the big lie have not gone away. And we know that there are still a lot of people out there who genuinely believe that the election was stolen and who also believe that the only way to deal with political conflict is to address it through violence. And this just reiterates what I have said and what my colleagues have said over and over again since 2020. The rhetoric has got to stop because it's not just a political tactic anymore. It is creating actual violence in our communities. It is affecting human beings like me and my family, my colleagues, my friends and their families in their daily lives. It's threatening their safety.
I mean, I guess, what do you do short of making the case that this isn't the answer? We're human beings. Don't put my 10-year-old daughter's life in danger because you think the election was rigged. I mean, we began this segment talking about the findings of the Team Purple on the January 6th committee, and they detail with great specificity the radicalizing force of social media. How do you combat that as a state-level elections official? I mean, what recourse do you have? What resources do you have?
Well, first and foremost, we have to push back on the lies. And as you know, we have been doing that, and we have been doing it very strongly and forcefully over the last couple of years. But the next step is to take legislative action to ensure accountability and make sure that justice is being served for those who are not only just contemplating, but obviously for those who are carrying out these actions in real life. The work of the January 6th committee, I think, was a great example of that. And the prosecutions and the successful convictions that we have seen in federal court, particularly one individual in my state who was a public office holder who was then removed from office for having participated in the insurrection. It can't just happen at the national level, at the state level, when we see this type of violent behavior as we've seen here in my state. Again, I'm grateful to our local law enforcement, but the next step is to hold these individuals who are responsible accountable and to prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. And working with the legislature in my state and across the country, other states, we need to take proactive action legislatively to make very clear that it is a very serious crime to just even to threaten the lives and well-beings of elected officials across the country.
I mean, the other thing I worry about is beyond the very urgent safety issue. It must have a chilling effect in terms of who volunteers to want to be part of this system, to be an elections official, to be a Secretary of State. I mean, how do you grapple with this? Why do you still do a job that has forced you into hiding? I mean, obviously, it's very important for the functioning of democracy, but you're a person too, and I'm sure you have to worry about the safety of your own safety and that of your loved ones. How do you make that choice?
It's such a good question, Alex. And, I ran for a second full term of office here in New Mexico last year, fully knowing, the potential threats that I was going to subject myself to. And I had to think about it very hard. I had to think about, this isn't a job that I do for my own mental health and well-being, right? And I do acknowledge that there are potentially very serious threats to my life and to my family's life. But that's the reality of justice and the right to vote in democracy in this country. I am not part of a cohort that is facing this for the first time. So many people in our nation's history have had to face threats to their lives and, quite frankly, have lost their lives for the fight for democracy in this country. So I am not any different. I am just willing to do the work, and I'm willing to fight and to speak out and to do everything I can do to protect myself in light of the threats. And that is exactly what we need, again, on both sides of the aisle, and independents and everybody who we need to come together to run our nation's democracy, to make sure that it's healthy and that it thrives, is that willingness to say, yes, we acknowledge there is risk, but so many people have come before us to do the same.
Well, we're all so deeply grateful for everything you're doing to keep the democracy of the United States on track. And I'm sorry that you have to make the decisions and the calculations that you do. New Mexico Secretary of State Maggie Toulouse Oliver, thanks so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.